Hey everyone, so today I'm gonna talk a little bit about how you can fill up your journals. I feel like a very common sentiment to people who are starting out with journaling for the first time is that you're not sure what to even write about, like you don't really know how to start writing. The reason that some people struggle to keep a journal and to fill their journals is because you're lacking some kind of structure. There has to be some amount of structure to get started and to keep a consistency. I'm gonna go into what that means and what that looks like, and hopefully be able to help you get out of your journaling slump, or if you just don't know where to start. So I am no stranger to having multiple journals. I have so many notebooks. It's a little ridiculous, to be honest with you. I'm not gonna lie. There's a lot. And you might be wondering, like, what could you possibly be writing in all of these notebooks? Like, how can you fill them up? They each have a job. When you get a notebook, you have to assign it a job. Give it a reason, a purpose to be there. That's the first thing that you want to do. In the case of these two notebooks here, I'm just going to start with these just because it's here. They are essentially the same kind of notebooks, but they function totally different. This one is my archiving journal. I did make a whole video about like the introduction to this journal, so you can check that out up there somewhere if you are interested. Basically, I call it an archive journal, not because I'm archiving other journals. It's like my nostalgia journal. Everything in here, if you can't tell by the cover, is kind of like based on nostalgia, specifically 90s and Y2K nostalgia, because that is the era that I am from, and that is the era that feel the most like comfort in, I guess you can say. So I often will fill this book with things that remind me of the better parts of my childhood, the better parts of things that I want to remember over and over again. It doesn't necessarily have to be from the 90s or 2000s. Like some of these things in here are more modern and new, but it's basically just to have a commonplace, if you will, of the things that bring me a lot of nostalgic joy. I do sometimes use this as like a media journal as well. So like Nope isn't from the 90s or Y2K, but I do use it as a media journal as well. This is one of those journals that even though it's dated, I do just come back to this journal whenever I feel like filling it up. It's one of those things that are kind of ongoing. If you are somebody who doesn't like a dated system, like you don't want to feel the pressure of a dated book, then these type of dated notebooks probably won't work for you. And honestly, it wouldn't have worked for me initially, but then I just figured I could still use the notebook to fill up all of the archiving media and nostalgia stuff I want to talk about, and just dip into it whenever I feel like archiving. So that is what I use this notebook for. And this is the Hobonichi Cousin A5 in the Han edition. This one is the same size, it's an A5, but this is from Sterling Ink, and this is their common planner. It kind of has the same layout as the Hobonichi Cousin. It's more or less like they're like the same kind of notebook, just a little bit different in terms of the style. This is my main squeeze, if you will, my main journal. I sit down every week at the end of the week usually and go back and fill all of the pages for each day of the week. The way that I do this system is I write down all the notes and highlights of every day in my pocket notebook. So I have this pocket notebook here that goes with me everywhere, and I write in this notebook every single day. It just basically highlights notes about like what I want to journal about basically. And I'll have all my notes here so that when I go back and start to decorate this big journal, I can look at my notes from my pocket notebook. So these two go hand in hand pretty much. So that's kind of how I've been utilizing these two notebooks, the pocket notebook along with this one. And the structure behind this is, like I said, it's just my daily journal. This is what even though I'm not literally writing in it and decorating it every single day, I am going back and still doing the input of each day at the end of the week. And when I look back on all of these pages, you know, read back some of the entries, I suddenly remember everything from that day. It's really great for those of you who have trouble with memory keeping, like especially short-term memory. This is just a great way and a fun way to remind myself of each day. You know, at the end of the year, I want to look back on all of these from start to finish, and I think it'll be a really great way to make every day and every year special. That's the purpose of this journal. If you want to start journaling, you have to ask yourself why. Like, what is the purpose of you journaling? Is it to get your feelings out and to use it more like therapy? Is it to be creative and have a creative diary where you can doodle and sketch and make art and, you know, that kind of thing? Or maybe you want to do creative writing, maybe you want to be a writer, write poetry. You have to have a purpose to journaling to start. You can't just like buy the notebook and think like your life is magically going to become this like fantasy that you see online in other people's journals. When you want to start journaling, first ask yourself what the purpose is, and then ask yourself what kind of job you will give this notebook. You are the employer and your journal is the employee. What do you want this journal to accomplish for you? What do you want this journal to do for you? This little pocket journal that I'm using right now, this is from Louise, Carmen, and this is their Earnest size. I use this as my pocket art journal. This is the one that goes everywhere with me, travels with me. I want to use this to further my creative outlet. I don't think I'm any kind of Picasso, okay? Like, I'm not a fine art illustrator. The purpose of this journal is just to put pen to paper, be creative, and unashamedly so. You know, someone might look at this, which I just created with my fountain pen ink, and say, that is not a koi fish. That is, what is that? What is this monstrosity? Someone else might see it as a legit artwork. The art that I put in this notebook is just for me. And although I may share it on my YouTube channel, I am not here to get praises for my artwork. But drawing, painting, and doing any kind of like fine art or sketching has always been a creative outlet to me, and I'm not gonna let social media intimidate me and stop me from doing it just because my art isn't as glorious and beautiful and perfect as some of these actual fine artists out there whose literal main job is to create art. Get yourself a journal whose purpose is to let you be creative and have that childlike curiosity and creativity, and let it out onto the paper. It could be literally anything. Don't let your creativity be stifled by what you see on social media. Drawing is like any other skill. The more you do it, the better you get at it. There are some people who are just naturally very creative, and even as a graphic designer, I would not say I'm very naturally creative or artistic. That is why I want to keep an art journal and be able to freely express myself, and that is how I am utilizing this journal. Honestly, even though I just started on it, I'm very, very excited to get into this art journal because it's a practice that I have put off for a very long time. Okay, so maybe you're not the type of person who wants to be artistic or has any desire to draw anything, and maybe you're also not the type of person who has that much to say. Maybe you don't want to put all of your feelings and thoughts onto paper, but you still have a desire to have a journal and you're just not sure like what you want to fill it with. If that's you, you may like commonplacing. Commonplacing is basically a very, very old note-taking tactic that has been around for literally centuries. So some people may use commonplace journals as just a place to dump any kind of random thing, like whether it's their favorite movies or like something about a random fact or like even favorite recipes. But the traditional way of using a commonplace journal is to write other people's words and thoughts and ideas. So a very, very common practice with commonplacing is, and how many times am I going to say common, is writing out your findings from books, especially like non-fictional books, although you can do it with any books. Basically just a way to have a collective of other artists, other philosophers, poets and authors, words and viewpoints and facts onto paper. The way that I have my commonplace journal set up is by philosophers or like words of wisdom, poets, authors, artists, including musical artists, and science, astronomy, and astrology. I can't always remember the things I want to reference, so going back to my Commonplace and remembering exactly what Basquiat said, exactly what Sylvia Plath thought of having her period, exactly like more information about my zodiac sign, which is Capricorn. I like to be able to go back and reference those things here. I essentially see this as like a Sparks note, reference guide to all the things that interest me. That is one thing that you could try and journal if you are not somebody who wants to put your own thought onto paper. That is one way of keeping a journal. And then following up to that is brain dumps. This is actually the last thing that I'm going to show you. Perhaps commonplacing is too much work for you. Perhaps writing your own thoughts is too much emotions. Perhaps you're not an artsy person, but you still want to have that notebook. You still want something somewhere where you can just put out notes and fill a notebook. I introduced to you brain dumping. Brain dumping is literally just writing random stuff. This is my brain dumping journal, and honestly, I mean, I don't even remember doing some of this stuff, to be honest with you. I feel like it's a nice gateway also to actual journaling your thoughts. It's not very intimidating to brain dump. It could literally just be any frame of reference, any thoughts. Sometimes I'll have a random sketch in here. Sometimes I'll have a random half-assed poem, scribble lines, or testing out my pen. Actually having some thoughts. How much I spent one random week. I don't know why I put that there either. Sometimes I'll just do this kind of thing where I'll write like one thing. I think it's very artistic and poetic to have a whole blank sheet of paper, but just write like a sentence smack in the middle. Whatever this is, I'm just trying to get the message across to you that a brain dumping notebook is just putting whatever comes to your mind onto paper. If you are like me and very ADHD, I think brain dumping is a phenomenal tool that is very underrated. If you have a million things going through your mind, it is very difficult to concentrate on the thing that you're supposed to, aka like work for most of us, or maybe school and studying. And having a brain dump book where I can just scribble and just write random things out onto paper kind of gets rid of all that fluff in my mind and helps me to concentrate and focus. And that is why this book is pretty well used. Like, I filled up this booklet almost halfway through now, and I haven't had it for more than a couple of months now, probably a few, like 3 months, but it's almost halfway done. It's just really, really easy to brain dump and get all of the thoughts and get all the noise out of my mind by putting it onto paper like this. So I honestly think it's a very underrated tool for those who have ADHD. The beauty of a brain dump notebook is you can use any kind of notebook. My first brain dumping notebook, I think it was one of those brown craft spiral notebooks. I think I got it for free. Literally just use anything where you don't feel like it's precious. Just get whatever is gonna allow you to actually write in it. The only focus of that, the only reasoning of a brain dumping notebook should be to write in it. I hope all of these were helpful in some way in getting some kind of idea as to how you can start journaling and how you can start being consistent in filling them up. And of course, there are other ways and methods of journaling that I may not have touched upon, but these are the journals that work for me. That's all from me today, and I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.